vote does matter.
It does matter.
Yeah.
And I can say this as Gen X because Gen X starts in 65. I'm born in 68. So I'm about as close to an OG Gen X as you can get, you know, because the cutoff is 80. So I'm on the beginning of the Gen X spectrum. We were those kids that our parents turned loose every day, and we pretty much raised ourselves, and we have attitudes, and you know we that's who we are. I get it, and I get it. That's who I'm that person. But I said this off camera, and I'll say this on camera. When I talk to these young people today, and I tell them, look, the problems that you're facing right now and that your parents are facing right now are not your fault. And I don't expect you to fix it. It's my fault. It's my fault, and it's everybody in my generation's
We're going to start, and we're going to start the right way. I'm going to ask Alderman David Stovall if he would come up and lead us in a prayer. And welcome. Please join me in prayer. Dear Holy Father, we come to you with grateful hearts, especially thankful for the blessing of community and for the opportunity to come together this evening. We ask your blessing upon each of our judicial candidates who seek to serve the people of Rankin and Madison counties. Please grant them wisdom, courage, and humility. Bless their families and all those who support them, and guide each of them in the pursuit of justice, fairness, and faithful service. Grant us wisdom and discernment as we listen this evening. Help us to hear each candidate thoughtfully, to consider their words and qualifications carefully, and to seek leaders who will administer justice with wisdom and integrity. Please bless this gathering, our communities, and all those who dedicate themselves to the service of others. In your holy name we pray. Amen. If y'all would, please stand and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Face the flag. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank y'all for being here. If you would, to start with what I should have started with a minute ago, please turn your phones on silent. Please make sure your phones are silent. And let me get my notes up. I want to right quick to tell you how much that I appreciate everybody being here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gene Newman. I'm state representative, and this is my district that you're in. I'm going to tell you real quick. I've had a lot of people ask me, why was I doing this? Why was you doing this? I've been in the bail bonding business. This is my 50th year. I've dealt with judges all over this state and all over the country because of different things. But when you deal with judges a lot, you see a lot and you learn a lot. And I've had judges to tell me here in Mississippi, and I won't say who they are and where they were, but I had a judge here in Mississippi tell me one time that he didn't care what they did in Jackson. I was in his county now. So all you have to do to see how bad judges can be is look across the river. So, and you'll recognize how important these two races are. We have 3 quality candidates in each race, and that's the reason we're here. We're not here for me. We're not here for anybody else. We're here for them. Please keep that in mind. I want to, right quick, first off, start out by thanking the Mayor Pearl and the Board of Aldermen for allowing us to use this room today. I want to thank the Pearl Chamber of Commerce and Kathy Deere specifically because she done all this work putting all this together. And I really appreciate that. I want to thank Frank Hutton, who runs Pearl Municipal Broadcasting for all the work that he's done, getting all these mics and everything put together. I want to thank a complete flag source. Y'all, I don't know how many of you ever go buy a flag or put on your house or whatever, but most of the flags that you go buy, if you're not paying careful attention, they're not made in the United States. If you're going to put up a United States flag, you need to put up one made in America. You can go to a complete flag source up on 55 North. Every flag they've got is made in America. So keep them in mind, and if you're going to buy a flag, go buy a flag from them. I'd also like to thank Catered Occasions that's here in Pearl that got all that food back there. I appreciate the work that they've done. They've been here all day getting all that set up. So I really appreciate what they've done. Right quick, I want to recognize, there's too many of you out there to recognize by name and stuff, but if you're an elected official in a municipality, would you please stand right quick? And if you're an elected official in the county, would you please stand? I know I saw a supervisor here a minute ago, so. And we got judges here. We got several of them here. So, if you're a state official, and I know the big state official I'm going to announce in a minute, but if you're a state official, representative or senator, I know we got several of them back there. If y'all would please stand. All right. So I told you why I did this. And I'm gonna tell you that it's important. These races are important here because of where you live at. To be able to have this in Rankin County and Madison County, it's important for us. We got to keep our counties safe, and these guys are going. One of these guys is going to get elected into each one of those offices, and so you know there's three of them. So it can't just be a heads-up race right off the bat. It could wind up into a runoff or something. I've asked the Secretary of State, Michael Watson, to come and talk to you a little bit about how this will actually work. And I'm going to turn it over to him, Michael Watson.
Thank you, Representative Newman, and I want to say a big thanks to him for caring enough to put this together. When I walked in and saw the crowd, I got excited. I love seeing an engaged citizenry. There's nothing better for our country, for our state, for our local communities, and having folks who understand the significance of these races, who understand the significance of all races, especially these at the county level. The impact that they have, as y'all well know, we've got three branches of government. I want to ask y'all to name them, but they are the legislative, executive, and judicial. And a lot of times I think we focus on the executive and the legislative, and we sometimes forget about the judicial, but they play an incredibly important role. The legislature can pass policies and laws. The executive branch obviously implements them and enforces them, but sometimes there are questions. And I think that's the key piece about judges. When there are questions about the law, when there are questions about cases that are important, the case law that they're going to set and the precedent they're going to set, I think sometimes we overlook that and the importance of it. So you can't have just a good legislative branch and a good executive branch without a great judicial branch. So thank you for paying attention. Thank you for being here. It does my heart good to see so many folks in the crowd. I would have walked through this just a touch, but again, the Pearl Chamber, thank y'all for sponsoring this, and the City of Pearl. Representative Newman, he left somewhere. I think he's at the food table. Thank you, Representative Newman, and I was just wondering what river you were talking about earlier when you said look across the river. We'll leave that for later. But very quickly, as you all know, there's several questions right now going around the state about judicial races, and again, the importance of that. And sometimes we tend to put those on the sidelines, but they are incredibly important. So we want to walk through just the process here, the procedure, what these are going to look like at the ballot box for you. So first, we'll talk about the Chancery Court District. It's composed of just Rankin County, and there are 3 chancellors elected for place 1, 2, and 3. They all run county-wide, and place 1 is the only contested race. So we've got 2 others. I know one of them is here. I saw him earlier. But we've got Judge Troy Odom. Troy, wave at the crowd. Thank you, Troy, for being here. And then Judge Hayden Roberts. I don't see Hayden. Hayden's tending to his caravan of children, I'm sure. But wanted to be sure that y'all understood the 3 places there, and the one that's up for a race tonight, or in November. You're going to hear from the candidates tonight. But again, very important to understand the process, to whom do the people need to pay attention to in these races, but also down the road, who do these citizens need to hold accountable. And so we've got 3 judicial places here in the circuit, or excuse me, the Chancery Court place, 1, 2, and 3. So pay attention to those. And then also the 20th Circuit Court District. It's a little bit different, composed of Madison and Rankin counties. And the chancellors there, the judges there elected for place 1, 2, and 3. Again, 3 spots for those. And they run district-wide, so the counties, obviously Rankin and Madison will be included there. Place 1 is the only contested race, so that's what we'll be hearing from tonight. And this judicial vacancy must reside in Rankin County, so an important piece there. The unopposed are place 2, Judge Steve Ratcliffe, and place 3, Judge Dewey Arthur. So again, 3 places there. It's important that you know, again, that the process and the procedures of this, to whom are we going to hold accountable, and who are we going to be sitting under in our courtrooms. So I think that's an important part there. That would be decided by majority vote. Very important there. Sometimes we have different races in different ways that are decided, some plurality, some majority. So this is a majority race. If a single candidate does not receive the majority vote on November 3rd, there will be a runoff, and that will occur between the top 2 candidates 4 weeks later on December 1st. So again, keep that in mind. If no one clears the field there with a majority vote, then there will be a runoff between the top 2 candidates. So keep that on your calendars. And most importantly, I think one of the times that we tend to get excited about the original race, and we forget about these runoffs. And because these are majority races, you're more than likely going to see a runoff. And when runoffs happen, a lot of times we tend to quit paying attention. And that's when some of these races you're going to see between, 2 or 3 folks are going to come down to a very minimal number of votes. So when we get in these runoff races, if you forget about them, you could have a very small percentage of your county electing your judge. And many times, again, we tend to forget those runoffs. So please put that on your calendar. Every vote matters. We've seen tied legislative races. We've seen tied municipal races. A lot of times people tell me, Michael, it just doesn't matter. My vote's not going to count. Oh, absolutely, your vote's going to count, especially in these races. Again, sometimes we forget about the judicial because we think about legislative and executive, but these are the folks who are going to be applying that law in the courtroom when there are questions about it and making those decisions about what the law actually means. So please pay attention to those. Tell your neighbors, really important. Y'all are here as a subset of the community. I think one of the important things that we can do as engaged citizens is spread the word. And when you hear some of these judicial candidates and some of the things that they say that you think, man, that kind of really caught my attention. I want my neighbors to hear this too. Very important. Word of mouth is one of the most important pieces of campaigns and races. When people that are our neighbors that we trust hear something, they distinguish between candidates. It's your job to go out and tell your neighbors, your church members, your business community friends, hey, look, this one really set themselves apart. We need to take a harder look. I think this may be our candidate. So it's important to talk to your neighbors. Make sure you're getting the turnout. One of the things that we've been doing over the years at the Secretary of State's office is our Promote the Vote, where we're going into schools, making sure that our young people understand the importance of elections. Many times they're going to look up to you, to their parents and to their grandparents. Do my parents go vote? Do my grandparents go vote? Do my neighbors go vote? If they don't, then why should I? So you're setting an example for the future of our state. So please get out and vote. Please tell your neighbors and your friends to go with you to make sure that our future generation is seeing that it actually matters in our communities. I'm preaching to the choir here. They'll do a phenomenal job. Rankin County always has a great turnout at the polls. But I encourage you, again, to set that example for your young leaders that are coming up behind you. Second thing that we're doing right now is our ambassador program. I love to talk about that wherever we go because, again, these are your high school seniors. We're teaching them to go do voter registration drives in their high schools. So if you've got a junior going to be serving their junior year, they're going to be in their junior year this year, the application period will come up next March, April, so please let them know about that. But we teach them about, again, the importance of elections. But does it really matter? Do my parents do it? Do my neighbors do it? Do my grandparents do it? So please set that example for our communities as you go and vote. Please pay attention to these judicial candidates. They're incredibly important. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood the process there, the runoff piece, as well as the majority of the voters will win this election. So with that, Representative Newman, thank you very much for allowing me to come, and I look forward to seeing you at the polls.
Okay, we come to the part that y'all are here for. So I talked to Judge Kenny Griffiths, the Supreme Court Justice for this district, a while back, and we were talking about the judicial races and the fact that nobody paid attention to them. And he said, well, y'all do something about it. So he's the cause of all this, so if y'all want to blame somebody, you can blame him. And I want you to know that he ran at one point and didn't get elected, and then he got appointed, and he's been elected since then. He is our judge. he represents us well. He does what we want him to do in the Mississippi Supreme Court. He's fair, he's straight, and he's the kind of judge that we're looking for here. So I give you Judge Kenny Griffiths, and he will take us home. Thank you, Gene. I appreciate that. It's great to be here with you today. If I can get this situated. I want to thank the City of Pearl, and I want to thank Gene for this forum. I can't tell you as a candidate how important it is to have a voice and an opportunity. So today, the rules of this and the discussion that we're going to have is we're going to start out with a time for each candidate to introduce themselves. And we're going to keep time. Gene's going to be the timekeeper. And you're going to have 5 minutes to introduce yourself. At the end, we're going to save and allow each candidate with 3 minutes at the end to really ask for your vote and to make their case. And so what I thought I would do to begin with, though, is to help out and talk about the jurisdiction. Over here we have our Chancery Court candidates who are only in Rankin County. Chancery Court is a court of limited jurisdiction in Mississippi. It mainly deals with domestic relations matters, wills, estates, probate, minors' business, property matters, and there are really no criminal cases. And the judge is both the finder of fact and the finder of law. Well, on the other hand, over here we have our circuit court candidates who will serve in both Madison and Rankin. And circuit court is a court of general jurisdiction. If there is no case, for example, domestic cases are not heard in circuit court. You normally think about civil cases, tort actions, contract actions, and the like, or criminal cases where the person might serve more than a year in the penitentiary. In circuit court, we have juries, and the jury is the finder of fact, and the judge is the finder of law. And it is often said that in Chancery Court, you see good people at their worst. And in circuit court, you see bad people at their best. So I'm going to give them a chance tonight to talk to you about their positions. And I'll say this, too. This will be my last little limiting here, is that there are restrictions on what judicial candidates can and cannot say. They're not able to make pledges. They're not able to make commitments. So they're not going to tell you how they're going to hold in every case. So they may talk in some generalities, but that's required by the Code of Judicial Conduct. And they're not going to commit to any cases, controversies, or issues that may come before the court. So with that, let's start, and we'll go in alphabetical order, and we'll start with our Chancery Court. So, Bo, you're looking at me. You know that you're on at that point. So, Bo Agnew.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you very much, and I appreciate everybody else that's here tonight. It means a lot to have you all come out and care enough to look into this and see what makes all of this happen. And it's important. These decisions are important because these roles are important, and I thank you all for being a part of that. I'm Bo Agnew, and I'm running for Chancery Court Judge here in Rankin County. I have been practicing law in Chancery Court for 23 years. The reason I'm running is because this is my home. This is where my children were raised. This is where my wife and I started our family as soon as we got married. And under the circumstances, I believe with all my heart that our community deserves a Chancery Court judge that will bring not only experience, but integrity, morality, and compassion to the bench. Those are important factors in Chancery Court. You know, Chancery Court is not just a court about law and equity. It's a court about life, because it's where life happens. It's the issues that we all deal with. It's family matters, as Justice Griffiths just said. It's family law, it's divorce, it's custody, it's the things that keep us up at night. It's our property, our marriage, our home. It's the things we pray about. Those things are of such a serious nature that it requires a serious discernment and a serious attitude about it. It's very important. And that's what I've always done. I practice law in a civil sense. I'm a private practitioner. I've been doing that since 2003. My father before me and my grandfather before him, Agnew Law Office has been operating for over 65 years. I practiced in virtually every chancery court in the state of Mississippi, from the north to the south. I'm not just limited to Rankin County. I'm all over the place. I've seen virtually every chancellor across the state. I've seen how it's done. I'm not going to say across the river, but I will say that it's done differently. It's not always the same. Judges have different attitudes, different mannerisms, different ideas about how things should be done, and that vast experience I have of going all over the state I think is important. Chancery Court is one of those places where you deal with the issues that are of the heart, not so much of law. So there's a big question on how do you deal with those things and how do you make the best decisions. I have had a lot of experience watching other judges all across the state of Mississippi, and I have sat at tables through hundreds of cases and held hands with mothers and fathers as we got verdicts and as we went through the process. I know what it feels like because I've lived it. I walked through it with them. I haven't worn those shoes, but I've walked beside them. And that is what this is about to me. It's not just about that. It's about how you handle that and what you do with that. Chancery Court is one of those places that require a very special person, and anybody that practices law will tell you either one or two things. You're very special or you're crazy, because it is of such a so tightly woven emotional realm that you have no choice but to either engulf it and just take it in and become part of it, or you don't do it. And so most often you'll see many people lawyers that just don't do it. But like I said, it's what I do. It's what I've done for 23 years. It's what I will continue to do. It is my wheelhouse. And besides the fact that I feel very confident in my abilities, I can just tell you this. I will not be learning Chancery law from the bench. I know Chancery law. I will be focusing on what my goal is, and that is to lead people in a direction that is healthy and non-destructive, and do the best I can to save these families in these circumstances. I have also, I've practiced, in, like I said, in every area, but the justice is right. The majority of it is domestic work, but there is a lot of work in land matters, terminations, other things that have to do with things outside of the actual family law matters, but that is the predominant basis of the work, and that's what I've always done. On top of that, I'm very proud to say that I have a lot of judicial experience. I've been working 10 years on the bench. I'm a municipal judge in 3 separate cities, and I'm proud to say I'm an elected official here in Rankin County as a justice court, coming up on my end of my second term, almost 8 years. And what I have learned in that role is invaluable, because working from both sides of the bench, I've come to realize that it is not about adversary all the time. It is about results, and results often come from resolution, especially when you're dealing with families and dealing with circumstances where families are in a potential destructive atmosphere. I can tell you that integrity and honor and truthfulness, the ability to listen more than you speak, the ability to take the information that you're given and not jump and knee-jerk react, the ability to look at circumstances and give everybody an ample, fair, and just opportunity to be heard is of the utmost importance. Those are the things that I have learned over the last 10 years, and those are the things that have sunk deeply into my heart and made me want to be a service person. My desire is to serve my community. My grandfather told me the best 2 ways to do it: serve God, serve your community, or serve your fellow man, and that's what I want to do for Rankin County.
Thank you. So we'll make it a little bit easier. I'll walk up, so y'all know I'll walk to the podium when you've got a minute left. That'll help out a little bit. Our next candidate for Chancery Judge of Rankin County is Ms. Carrie Carroll. Carrie?
Thank you, Justice Griffiths. Good evening. My name is Carrie Carroll. I, too, would like to thank Representative Newman, Justice Griffiths, and the Pearl Chamber for hosting this event. I concur with everything that's been said here tonight. Judicial elections are so very important. Of course, I'm partial to the Chancery election. That's where my heart is, and that's where I've qualified to run. Chancellors make decisions that determine the people's lives. There are little children that come before the Chancery Court in divorces, and what the Chancery Court decides determines their steps, so to speak, for the next 10, 20 years of their lives. So it is very important, and it's very encouraging to me to see such a great turnout here tonight, and public interest in these races. Again, my name is Carrie Carroll. I moved to Rankin County in 2006. Y'all can't hold it against me that I'm not from here. I always say I got here as soon as I could, and I registered to vote as soon as I moved here, and I have faithfully voted here in Rankin County since 2006. I obtained my law license in 2005. I've been practicing law ever since. I had the honor and privilege of clerking for the Honorable Jim Smith, who was the former Chief Justice at the Supreme Court. And then I practiced law privately, and I found my niche in Chancery Court and family law. I am a first-generation lawyer. I am an anomaly in my family. I come from a family of preachers, teachers, and medical professionals. So I don't really know where my desire to serve in this capacity came from, but I definitely found it in family law. Family law, when people ask me about Chancery Court, the best way I can describe it is it deals with matters of the heart. If your marriage is ending, if you are facing losing time with your children, if you have a loved one who has an addiction or a mental health issue that interferes with their ability to live their day-to-day lives, property disputes, things of that nature, that's what Chancery Court deals with, and it's not easy. They're oftentimes tough. Termination of parental rights, adoptions are pleasant and fun to do, but there's usually a termination that occurs beforehand, and that's not pleasant. Somebody's right to parent their children is being terminated. So it's tough. It's very tough topics, and it does take a special person to handle that. Throughout my career, I have focused on the areas in Chancery Court. I, too, before I got married and had children, I was able to travel across the state. But once I got married and had children, I limited my practice to Rankin Chancery. So I'd say the last 10 years have been exclusively in Rankin Chancery Court. Throughout that time, I also served as a guardian ad litem for the children in Rankin County and other counties as well, where I was an advocate for those children and ensured that the court heard their voices. I also had the privilege and distinct honor to serve as family master for Rankin County, where I presided over Chancery Court cases, custody cases, contempt cases. I made the hard calls, visitation, child support, modifications. It was truly an honor for me to serve in that capacity. I feel that the Lord used me throughout those cases, and I listened to and presided over 3,000 cases during that 4-year period. I have litigated in Rankin Chancery alone over 532 cases. I am very experienced at litigating. I'm also experienced at mediation and resolution. I've always said that if you can resolve it before you have to submit it to a judge, oftentimes clients are happier with the outcomes because they have input over the outcome of their lives or their children's lives. To give you a little bit of personal information about me, my husband and I we have a blended family. My most coveted title is wife, mom, and stepmom. I have 2 bonus children who are 16 and 14, and then my husband and I have 2 sons together who are ages 9 and 5. And I often say that my 5-year-old counts as 2 or 3 children because he's definitely, or thinks he's the boss of the family. So a lot of what is experienced in Chancery Court, I've lived, and I understand it on a personal level. So I believe that the Lord has called me to fulfill this role. I have the heart, I have the wisdom, I have the experience, I have the discernment, I have the temperament, but above all, my faith is what will carry me through my career and through ensuring that the right decisions for this county, its citizens, and its children are made. So I'm asking you for your prayers, your support, and ultimately your vote November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our third candidate for Chancery Judge, Michael Wolf.
Well, thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you, Representative Newman, and everyone who put this on. It's a special opportunity for us to just sort of chat about what we're looking at here in this judicial election. One of the first questions I think everybody should be asking of a judicial candidate is, what's your judicial philosophy? What are you going to bring to the bench as a philosophy? First off, it's real simple. Strict adherence to the law. Follow the law. Trial judges are not legislatures. You don't make it up a bunch. You follow the law. Show respect to the people in front of you. How do you do that? You listen to them. What else do? You move your docket along. No unnecessary delays. You take care of business. And most importantly, you give folks, and this is how you show people respect, you give folks opinions that are well written, well thought out, that not only show that you've followed the law, but that you've listened to them, and they have something very transparent to say, that's what's going on in that courtroom, and that's why you decided. That's hard work, though, getting those good opinions out. I'm about hard work. Now, judicial philosophy, that's a sort of an easy thing to say, but if it was that easy, we wouldn't need courts of appeals and we wouldn't have two sides of every case. It's very difficult. In Chancery Court, you know, the law's there. It's a wide area of law. Believe it or not, chancellors see everything. You've heard the description of the variety of cases. So you've got to be well-versed across the board. But also, as you also heard that a chancellor is a trier of fact, right? Well, who's trying the facts? That's beyond the law. That's who is the person. Who is the person next to you? Well, one thing I can say tonight is I've got two very good people sitting next to me tonight. I think Rankin County should be very proud of your judicial candidates here tonight. That goes without saying. I think the next thing is, who am I? All right? And that's a question we should all be asking ourselves. I think judges right to the end of their tenure should be asking, who am I and what am I doing? Well, I look back and I've been asking myself that my entire life. When I was a kid, and I look around this crowd, and I say this with all due respect, y'all might remember Mark Twain, because I do. All right? Mark Twain, as a kid, he was one of my favorite authors. I loved the Huckleberry Finn, the Tom Sawyer, the Adventures on the Mississippi River, the way he was able to take really common folks and express really deep emotional thoughts in them. I might have missed all those deep emotional thoughts when I was a kid, but I loved the stories. And one of the, and getting to know Mark Twain, I went down a rabbit hole and got into his quotes. And one of his great quotes, he probably didn't say, but it's attributed to him, is there are 2 days in a man's life that are important. The day he's born and the day he figures out why. Well, Mark Twain, I don't remember the first, but I've spent a lot of time thinking about the second. And I've thought about it. Was I a good student? Was I a good son? Am I a good husband? Am I a good father? Am I a good neighbor and friend? Well, I certainly hope so. That's not my purpose. My purpose, and I think y'all will, this is a Rankin County crowd, I can say this. My purpose is to love God with all my heart. Plain and simple. And the funny thing about recognizing that about your purpose, so my second day was really a big one. When I recognized that, when you recognize that about yourself, it suddenly, it changes you. When your heart changes, how you approach all those other roles. That is, how you approach being a father. Man, maybe I'm a good example of my kids. How you're a husband. Maybe I'm a little bit more supportive of my wife. Love my wife. Gotta be there for her. She's right there. Maybe I'm a better neighbor. Maybe I take out the trash. I do these things. But maybe I'm also a better lawyer. Why? Because God also imbued us with certain things. For me, I have an incredible sense of curiosity that I give total credit to our Lord. He gave me a sense of curiosity. And what has that done professionally for me? It has caused me to never be satisfied. Listen, I may be the oldest one up here on the dais here tonight. I might not be, because I was awfully young when I started. But I may be the oldest one here, and what I can tell you is I have the same energy now that I had when I started. And that's a curious energy to say, listen, Chancery Court does a lot of things. Guess what I've done? A lot of things. Supreme Court, State Court, Justice Court, courts in other states. I've worked at Chancery Courts in all the same areas that you've heard about tonight. Plus, I've also got federal cases. I've represented individuals. I've represented corporations, the cities and counties. I've done the work. And at every time I've done it with a curious nature that I want to learn more. I say that as a judicial candidate, the most important thing you can bring personally is that curiosity. That is to say, I am there to not only learn the law, commit to the law, continue to educate myself on the law, but also to listen to what the people have to say.
genuinely listen to them, and in doing so provide them with the answers and the resolutions they need, whether it be from the bench as an order or some resolved, mediated results. That would be my goal. Thank you tonight. My name is Michael Wolf. I'm running for Chancellor Court Judge. Appreciate y'all. Thank you. Now we'll turn to our Circuit Court Judge candidates. Sarah Butler.
Thank you, Justice Griffith. My name is Sarah Butler, and I'm currently the senior staff attorney and mediator for the circuit judges right here in this district. I've served in circuit court for the last 13 years. My role with the court is to advise them on their cases, help them make their decisions. I prepare them for all their hearings. I work alongside them during trials. I also mediate for the court. So this is the work that I've been doing. I've been training for this position my entire career. I've handled every type of case that comes in circuit court. And we handle serious felony crimes. Those are cases like rape, murder, armed robbery. But we also handle complex civil litigation, cases like medical malpractice, products liability, and construction litigation. This is the work that I do every single day, and it's so important because it directly impacts all of us that live here. Our schools and our businesses and the public safety across this entire district. And so that's why I'm running, because I care deeply about this community. This is where I was born and raised. This is where my husband Todd and I are raising 2 little boys. And so nothing is more important to me than making sure that we continue in the right direction. Our court handles, we serve more than 285,000 people in Rankin and Madison County. So that's the second largest circuit court district in the state. We also carry a heavy docket. So last year we had over 700 civil filings and more than 2,000 criminal cases. Those are the most important cases that are coming through Rankin and Madison County, and we're dealing with them here in our district. I understand the circuit judge's role in the system because I've been doing the job. We work well with the district attorney's office, with the public defenders, and with the private attorneys. And last year, we were able to resolve more felony criminal cases than any other district in the state. And that's per judge. We don't have any backlogs in our court. We are efficient. We are running an efficient courtroom. And we're known for being tough on crime. And we're doing it the right way because we're giving people a fair hearing. And we're giving them the opportunity to be heard. So that's work that I plan to continue when I take the bench, because this is the work that I'm already doing. If you like the way Rankin and Madison County are going, the direction that we're heading, then I'm asking for you to vote in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Now our next candidate, Scott Gilbert. Thank you, Justice. I'm Scott Gilbert, and I was born and raised right here in Pearl, Mississippi. It's always good to come home. And you come home when you walk in the door somewhere and somebody you're not related to says, son, I've known you since the day you were born. And then you are comfortable enough to say back, well, I turned 50 this year, so that makes you really, really old. But I've been a lawyer for the last 20 years, and every day of those 20 years I've been a litigator, and that's somebody that goes to court and tries cases, argues to juries, handles witnesses, puts evidence in, argues with judges, argues with their clients, argues with the police if you're a prosecutor. And so that's what I've done every single day of my career. For the first 10 years, I was a prosecutor at the U.S. Attorney's Office. I prosecuted murder, bank robbery, child rape, child exploitation, money laundering, fraud, healthcare fraud, and was an asset forfeiture expert. And so for the first 10 years of my career, I spent those years in a courtroom prosecuting those folks that had committed crimes. After that, I left to go into private practice, and I was fortunate enough to be able to join Mississippi's oldest law firm, Watkins & Eager, where I've been a partner for the last 10 years. And for the last 10 years, I've continued to litigate every day. I have handled some criminal defense work. I handle civil work for civil defendants. I've done civil plaintiffs work for some of my clients. And so in the courtroom, I've seen it from all 4 of the major angles that will come before the court. I've been on every side that you can see, and so I've got a broad base of experience to bring to the bench, and that's important. It's important because one of the key roles, if not the most important role of a judge, is to maintain the faith of the community in its court system. Our court system is what we use, what our founding fathers created to eliminate people meeting in the street at high noon and whoever the luckiest shot was got to be right. We resolve our differences peacefully now in a courthouse. We put our differences in front of a jury. And the only way that works is if we have a judge on the bench that understands why lawyers are doing what they're doing, why it's important, and how to manage a jury and how to manage a trial so that it's fair. We have to guarantee every litigant a full and fair opportunity to come to court and plead their case. Prosecutors and criminal defendants, civil plaintiffs and civil defendants. If people don't have faith in the system, they won't use it. They'll start resolving their disputes in the middle of the street again. And we can see that in places where the court system doesn't function and where people don't have faith in the judiciary. And so judges need to have a broad base of experience. They need to have been yelled at by judges before. They need to have been involved in tough cases where they carried the burden of the decisions they made. And that's what it means to be a litigator. You are the person who makes the decision about what happens in a trial, and then you live with the consequences. You have to look that client in the eye as they go to jail, or look their family and children in the eye. You have to look that victim in the eye if you're a prosecutor and you didn't get a conviction on somebody that harmed them. So that's the type of pressure that judges live under every day when they're deciding who they're going to sentence and how they're going to, or deciding how long they're going to sentence somebody for. And so having lived under that pressure and that burden for 20 years, I'm prepared to take the bench and to make those decisions. And why is that important? Because a judge's second most important job, after maintaining the integrity of the judiciary and the faith in the community, is to protect the community. Once someone has had their fair trial and they've been convicted beyond a reasonable doubt of doing something awful, it's the judge's job to act in a way that will make sure that each and every one of us are safe from that person doing that again or worse. That's not an easy thing to do because God didn't put us here on earth to live in captivity. But there are some people out here who will make decisions that will demonstrate we cannot afford to have them out here with the rest of us. And so the second most important job is to protect this community. We have a wonderful community. We have a wonderful court system that does a great job. But the world is changing. Now, Mississippi is generally the last to change, for the better or for the worse. But that change is coming. And if we don't remain vigilant and find new and innovative ways to keep up with that change, we're going to find ourselves in trouble 10 or 12 or 15 years down the road. So our court system is critical. It's critical that your judge be an expert in what goes on in a trial court because he's the only employee from the judicial branch of government that's going to actively participate in a trial. I'm Scott Gilbert, and I'm being about November 3rd, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Carter Smith.
My name's Carter Smith. I'm running for Circuit Court Judge. And before I get started, I want to thank my wife. These campaigns are tough. They're tough on families. She stuck with me through it, and it means a lot to me. It means a lot that I had the help and the support of her and my kids. I've missed a lot of nights at home lately. Left a lot of mornings well before work just so I can go to different coffee clubs and meet different folks. And I just want to thank her. Let her know I love her and appreciate it. But she also understands why I'm doing it. I'm doing this because I'm friends with these folks that I'm running against, and it's nothing personal. But we all have different experiences. And I feel like my experience is more suited to the job, and that's why I'm running. Because I have two young boys. I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old son. They go to Rankin County Public Schools. My wife, by the way, has been teaching in Rankin County Public Schools for 25 years. She currently teaches at Northwest Rankin Middle School. And anyway, I wasn't born and raised in the community, but our roots are here now. My in-laws live here. Everybody in my family my wife, in-laws, kids, everybody's here. This is where I'll be buried, and I want to keep this a safe place. I want my kids and your kids to be able to raise their kids, or our grandkids here. And I know the impact the decisions from this court have on our community. They impact not only the defendants' lives and the victims' lives, but they impact your life. Whether you're in the courtroom or not, the decisions made from that bench impact you, because they're impacting the public safety of our community. I pulled some stats, and I can tell you by far the largest portion of a circuit court judge's docket that they handle is felony criminal cases. It far exceeds the civil stuff, and those felony cases are where the impacts on public safety play in on this. That being said, I think a perfect candidate, or what people ought to look at in a candidate, is twofold. You got to look at the person that's running as well as their experience. I can tell you, as far as a person, I'm a Christian, and I try to live my life that way. I'm a husband of 18 years, or going on 18 years. Don't get mad yet. I'm going on 18 years, and I'm a father. And I also own a business. I've been working on cars at night for almost 20 years, and practicing law during the day. I think that's important because it gives me a well-rounded view of life. It's not just what I've seen in the courtroom. I've met a lot of people, all different walks of life. And I think that plays into the role that a judge has. I can tell you the experience, though. There's some stuff that I feel like sets me apart from the candidates. I can tell you right now, I am the only candidate sitting up here that has tried a jury trial in the Rankin and Madison County Circuit Court as a licensed attorney. And I've tried a lot of jury trials in the Circuit Court of Rankin County. I've tried murder trials in the Circuit Court in Rankin County. I've tried multiple child molestation trials here. I've tried armed robberies here. I've tried rapes of women, of adults, as well as children, obviously, on the child molestation cases. I have tried a lot of jury trials here in this particular court, and I think that sets me apart from my opponents. I also have handled hundreds and hundreds of felony cases, and when I tell you that I've handled those cases, you can go to your circuit clerk's office and find a record of the cases that I've handled if you go and ask them. We have a little bit different definition on handling, but that's how I define the thing. If you're the attorney of record, I define that as handling the case. I worked that case from the very start all the way through the process till it was over with and at a conclusion in the circuit court. That being said, I have a lot of experience there in this particular circuit court that I'm running for. I feel like, as a person, I know a lot of the people that are at the courthouse. I still have a lot of friends, co-workers that work at the district attorney's office that I work well with. I work well with the ladies in the clerk's office, and I think that's all important because if I were to be elected to this position, it'd be a natural fit. I already know these people. I've already worked with them. They know me. I've worked with a lot of the public defenders. But enough about that. Like, I'll tell you. There wasn't a warning. That's it. Okay. It happens. Well, I'd ask you for your vote November 3rd, and you can go to my Facebook page, Carter Smith for Circuit Court Judge for Rankin and Madison County, and it'll tell you more about me, and you can see some of the trials that I've tried here and why I think I'm the most experienced and qualified for the job.
Thank you, Carter. Before we get started with the question, we've got some seats down front if those of you in the back would like to come forward. We've got some seats, so we've got you all here. The next part of this, we've got a question and answer period, and we're going to limit the responses to 2 minutes. I apologize to you about the warning, but I'm doing the best I can and what we have. But we'll have about 2 minutes, and you can answer the question or talk about whatever you want to. That's kind of how these go, or you can do a Dr. Fauci and not say anything. That's another issue. Thank you all for your opening, and we will have a closing at the end. So I'll start with Michael Wolf. Michael, explain the importance of the Chancery Judge and talk about what you hope to accomplish.
So obviously, the Chancery Judge is there in people's most trying times. And the interesting about it, it's not just family law. That's the bulk of it, obviously. But it is across a wide range of things, everything from a land dispute to contracts. And what comes before a Chancery Judge, you never know from day to day. They may start off with a TRO in the morning and end with a land dispute in the evening. But in every one of those, it's real people with real problems, life-changing problems. They're affecting them. So what do they want? They want somebody who's going to listen, somebody who's going to treat them fairly, someone who's going to give them the opinions that are well-founded and thought out and based on the law. From my perspective, they want somebody with a little bit of life experience. Now, I've been practicing 33 years, and in that time I've enjoyed a wide variety of things, and in that time I've discovered
Seeing my parents help, I've wanted to help my whole life. And in my father's capacity as being over congressional affairs at UPS, I followed him around. I went everywhere with him, fishing, hunting, and to the Capitol. And I enjoyed that element and that aspect of it, and it inspired me to go to law school. And the whole reason I went to law school was so that I could help people. The people that necessarily didn't always have the funding to afford larger ticket lawyers. I always tried to help give them payment plans so that they had a voice in court and they had somebody to fight just as hard for them as for the next person who maybe had a lot more in the bank than they did. So I would say that my faith also plays a large part in that as well. Because we're called upon to help others and to be compassionate and to build each other up. That's what Christ would have us do, and that's what I've tried to do in my personal life and my professional life as well.
Thank you. Next is for Bo Agnew. What professional experiences have best prepared you for the Chancery Judge position?
it's kind of a I would say that my experience, I grew up in a household of attorneys. I grew up in a process of watching my father and grandfather help others and treat others the way they need to be treated in their worst hour. And when I say their worst hour, I mean their worst hour. Late night calls, early morning calls. I grew up in that, and I'm seasoned for that, and it's just part of my life, helping others and moving towards resolution. I also believe that my judicial experience has compounded that tremendously. Learning from the other side of the bench how to be someone who helps resolve issues rather than creates new issues in a legal sense has been so rewarding. most of the time, you've heard it said multiple times up here today, everybody's looking for solutions. Well, they need to be heard, and we need to help them find solutions that don't devastate families. There are too many times that people go into Chancery Court and they end up walking out of there and they may feel like they got a win, but did they get a win? When families are separated and destroyed and it just goes on and the ripple effect, it doesn't just affect the mother and the father and the children, it's the aunts, the uncles, the grandparents. My goal is to be a point of light, to be a resolution for people, and that's what I feel like my experience brings me here to do.
Thank you very much. And next, with our circuit court candidates, I'll ask Scott Gilbert to explain the importance of a circuit judge and talk about what you hope to accomplish.
You know, my last closing argument was 2 hours. Justice, I did the 5 minutes. I was kind of sorry. A circuit judge, and this is sort of where I left off, a circuit judge is the only employee of the judicial branch of government that you're going to interact with that's going to make rulings and make decisions in circuit court. And that's not like going into any other government office where they can just go ask somebody for help. A circuit judge works without a net, just like you do when you're trying a case. And you have to be able to do that and make those decisions quickly and correctly and make sure that we get to the truth, because that's what our court system is for. It's a search for the raw truth. And that's where the importance is with how a judge can conduct themselves and make those hard decisions and make them quickly. What I'd like to accomplish as a circuit court judge, number one, is to continue the good work that the current judges on the bench are doing. We're very fortunate to have good judges, but to find ways to do things better and to always try and find ways that we can do what we're doing well better, and to find ways that we can do better in things we're not doing well. And the one particular area of interest for me is ways to get victims paid back with restitution in cases where they've been stolen from. The fact of the matter is we do a terrible job of that. Victims in Rankin and Madison County have literally no recourse to get their restitution orders enforced, and we've got to find a way to do that. And that's one of the things I want to accomplish.
Thank you very much. And next, for Carter Smith, what has inspired you to pursue a career as a lawyer and now as a circuit judge?
My folks were divorced at an early age, and when I saw how my mom was treated, it made me want to become an attorney to help people in her position. But I quickly learned after I started practicing law that I didn't want to do divorce work, so I've spent my whole career in the circuit court, almost 20 years, and now I'll tell you all the rest of what I was going to tell you earlier. But I was in private practice at first. I did that about 8 or 9 years in private practice. I've handled civil cases on the defense side and on the plaintiff side in circuit court in different districts all over the state. I was also doing criminal defense work. I always wanted to prosecute once I started getting into actual practice of law. So I did criminal defense work in the circuit courts all over the state. Left private practice. I was assistant DA south of here for Simpson, Jasper, Smith, and Covington County. I have a great record down there. I've handled hundreds of cases, felony cases in the circuit court, tried lots of jury trials down there as well. Then I came to the Rankin County District Attorney's Office. They hired me here to do the violent crimes and gun crimes when I started, and I stayed here for a few years before leaving and going to the Department of Transportation, which is one of your largest state agencies, and I'm the Deputy General Counsel there now. I have a lot of experience handling the civil stuff and the criminal stuff, but it's like my grandfather told me. My grandfather told me the best bosses and best supervisors that he's ever come across are the ones that have worked all the jobs that they now oversee as a supervisor. Ladies and gentlemen, I've sat at every single chair as the attorney of record in the circuit court for civil cases. I've been on the plaintiff side. I've been on the defense side. Criminal cases, I've been on the defense side, and I've been on the prosecution side. All of this in circuit court. The only chair I haven't sat in is the one that I'm asking you to elect me to November 3rd, and that's the one that the judge sits in.
Thank you. And next, for Sarah Butler, what professional experiences have best prepared you for the role of circuit judge?
My experience in the circuit court matches exactly the role of circuit judge. I'm doing the work in the courthouse every single day. Monday through Friday, I'm working hand in hand with the circuit judges, helping them make decisions. I advise them on their cases. I prepare them for their hearings. We're sitting alongside them during trials. This is the work that I do every day. It's just a natural next step. But serving in our community it's the same mission. So it's always been important for me to give back to my community. I do that through Rotary, through Junior League, alumni, the Board of Bar Commissioners. I'm on the board serving the whole entire state of Mississippi of lawyers. Service is giving back to our community and improving people's lives is what we do in circuit court too. It's the same mission. We're wanting to keep our community safe, make it a little stronger, and we're improving people's lives too because we have rehabilitation programs. There's opportunities that you can make changes in your life. And so we're doing that every single day, and that's why I'm prepared to serve as the next circuit court judge.
Thank you, sir. Our next round of questions, I'll go back to our Chancery judge candidates and ask Carrie Carroll this question. Without identifying the parties, can you describe a particularly challenging case or legal matter that you've handled and what prepared you to be a circuit judge? Chancery judge, pardon me.
Do you want a case that I've tried or one that I've heard?
Whichever you'd like to talk about.
That's a really hard question.
It is a hard question.
Gosh.
And I know you're up to it.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll say this. The hardest cases that I heard as family master were not the most terrible cases where there were clear showings of egregious misconduct, sexual abuse, drug use. I mean, those are no-brainers. It's very easy to protect the children in those cases. The hardest ones for me as family master were the ones where both mom and dad were good people. They may have, each had their own faults, but those were the hardest calls to make, and I relied on my faith. I relied on appellate court's prior rulings in similar circumstances, and I followed the law as applied to the facts. The hardest case that I've tried, gosh, that would probably, one of the hardest cases I tried, there were two attorneys on the other side of me. It was a termination of parental rights. The cousin of the child had custody of the child because the mother had a very bad drug problem. And I came home after 3 days of trial and told my husband I felt like I was getting dragged around that courtroom by two lawyers, and he laughed and said, nobody's dragging you around anywhere in that courtroom or anywhere else. But the mother had multiple attempts to come off of drugs. She had not done it. It tore my heart out, but it was what was best for the child. And that was actually a Judge Odom case, and he'll know the case that I'm talking about, because I think he, in the end, struggled with the decision that he ultimately made, or at least his staff attorney conveyed that to us and all the attorneys involved in that matter.
20 seconds.
But the termination went through, the mom reunification was not possible, and my clients were able to adopt. But it was still tough.
Thank you. Very good. Bo Agnew, how will you ensure that you remain impartial and unbiased when making decisions in the courtroom?
Well, basically, that's what I do now. I love what I do. Like I was saying earlier, probably one of the biggest blessings in my life has been to serve as a judge and make decisions and help people come to resolutions that are healthy. And part of that is being fair and impartial, not making decisions based upon your immediate read of the case or the facts. That's probably what I've learned the most over the last 10 years, is to be quick to listen and slow to speak, to pay close attention to every little detail. You have to remember you're seeing people at their absolute worst at that moment. And that's important to recall that and keep that in your head. I'll give you the best example I can give you. Everybody's heard of Doubting Thomas. That would be one of Jesus' disciples. He's known to this day as being the doubter because he said, let me see, and Jesus had to show him his hands and his marks in his side. But what you don't know about him is that when he had the opportunity, when they were going to return, I believe it was Capernaum, I can't remember the exact city, and they knew they were walking into sudden death, more than likely going back, he said, "Let me go, send me." Now that's a totally different person than the person at that moment who doubted. So what does that tell you? That tells you when people are under stress and pain and anguish, they might react in a way that they normally don't react. And you have to keep an open mind to that and keep that in your head all the time. Because if you don't, and if you make a decision just based upon what you're seeing at that moment, then that's probably not the right decision. You have to take everything into effect, and that's what I believe the best way to remain impartial is to keep in mind that we're all human. We have to all give our accounting of our own selves and our own thoughts and watch every single step that we make and apply that.
Thank you. And for Michael Wolf, how will you handle difficult and uncooperative parties in the courtroom?
Well, I think that's important for every judge in every, whether circuit or chancery court. There are rules of court, rules of decorum. I think the thing we need to watch out for and be careful is this. We're seeing probably more and more unrepresented parties. Attorneys are not there for somebody. They're coming what they call pro se. With attorneys, the task is real easy. You look at the attorney, you remind him of his obligation or her obligation, and you tell them that they need to snap it up, and they do. Rankin County attorneys are great in that regard. They're very respectful to the court. Some of the other counties, maybe not so much. But what about those pro se litigants? It's a little bit harder because they're coming there not just with the ChatGPT version of their case that they've printed out, arguing that they're sovereign citizens or whatever it is they got on the docket that day, but they're also bringing a lot of emotion. It's very personal to them. Here's what I think you need to do. You need to remind them of the place they're at, the importance of what they're doing. You need to take time to listen to them. Not so much time as that you waste the court's time. You need to also take time out. That is, if this person does not respect the court, they need to be removed from it. You let them walk out. If that doesn't work, you help them out. Well, that's what bailiffs are for. Bailiffs are there for a reason. So the courtroom decorum is wonderful, and I think I've seen some great courtrooms throughout the state and throughout the federal system. I've seen respect for the court, and I think that one of the things I think it's very important for every judge is to remember that when you're sitting on that bench, it's not just you, it's not just a friendly moment. You're there representing the people, you're representing an idea, you're representing something more than just yourself, and there are rules to take care of that.
Thank you. And next for the circuit court candidates, I'm going to go ahead and tell them I'm going to ask them all the same question. But I'm going to start with you, Carter. There are many lawyers who believe that we're witnessing the death of the jury trial. So talk about as a circuit judge, what can you do to make sure more jury trials are tried to verdict instead of forcing settlements through other means?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you why I've been harping on like the cases that I've tried in circuit court. The jury trial is the ultimate finality in circuit court. You have to have a jury trial in place or the potential for a jury trial to happen. Otherwise, cases would just keep getting kicked down the road. With continuances, if parties didn't want to agree on settlements and stuff, and there wasn't ever the possibility of it coming to a trial, they would, if they weren't happy with the agreement between them, they'd keep kicking it down the road. Same on the criminal side. If the defendant didn't like the plea offer, he would just keep bumping it down the road until he got something that he liked. The trial is what forces things to come to a head. In Rankin County, I have dealt with the volume of cases that come through this circuit court. I've been the attorney sitting there at the table handling the criminal cases that are coming through, which are the majority of the cases on the circuit court judge's docket. And there is a large volume. You have to have that jury trial threat there to enforce those people to either plead guilty or go to trial. You cannot be passing these things on. If you start passing them on, there'll be a backlog like they had in Hinds County. where they had to bring more circuit court judges in to handle the backlog of cases, and a lot of criminal cases were null-prossed with no resolution. When that happens, public safety goes down. If crimes are not, if they don't come to a conclusion, good, bad, or ugly for the defendant, there is no threat to that defendant that punishment might happen for the crime. I think it's that the jury trial in circuit court, that it is very vital to the way the system operates. You have to have it in place. Like I said, that is the ultimate finality to a case. I think that's why it's important that you have somebody on the bench that has tried a lot of jury trials in circuit court, because all courts are a little bit different in their procedures. Circuit court's different than federal court, and it's different than other courts. That's what I think is important in this particular situation that we're in right now, and what I think separates me from the other candidates.
Thank you.
Same difference.
Sir Bowling, same question. As a circuit judge, what can you do to make sure more jury trials are tried to a verdict instead of settlements?
The way you phrased it before was that we force them to settle. But
There you go.
I disagree with that,
Yep.
Respectfully. It gives them the opportunity to resolve the dispute on their own. They come to terms that they're good with. Whenever you're presenting your case to a jury of 12 people, they don't have the same interest in the case as you. They have a very short attention span if they even are still awake after lunch. So this gives you the opportunity to come to a resolution that you're good with. So we started a mediation program in our court about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's been very successful. I've been the chief mediator for that program since the beginning, and I believe in mediation. I think it's effective. It helps our court be even more efficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Gilbert, the same question. As a circuit judge, what can you do to make sure more jury trials are tried to a verdict instead of forcing settlements?
So the question is, how do we get more trials, right? All right, well, the first way, so you have the civil and the criminal context. In the civil context, judges can stop strong-arming and pushing lawyers into settlements. There's no other kind of way to say it. When you're a lawyer in a civil case and you go into a lot of courts, the judges, and I've handled cases in circuit courts all over Mississippi, civil cases and criminal cases, and there are certain judges in certain courts that will be almost to the point of belligerence, demanding that you settle a case. I've tried over 40 jury trials between state and federal court in my career. I don't need to be reminded that putting your case in the hands of a jury carries some sense of uncertainty with it. That's axiomatic, and we all know it. Judges push hard on civil litigants to settle cases, and a lot of cases are settled over the objection and against the will of the client. Now, that's not expressed to the court, but it's expressed to their lawyers. And their lawyers are the ones that get the bar complaints, and their lawyers are the ones that take it on the chin with that regard. So if you want to have more civil trials, judges have to lighten up, and if somebody wants their right to a jury trial, bring in a jury and give them the trial. In the criminal context, there's a huge caseload, and the plea bargaining process is critical in making sure that caseload is handled. But there are all kinds of considerations that go into particular plea agreements. The judge is not the district attorney. The district attorney's problems are not the judge's problems. The judge's problems are not the district attorney's problems. And so if you want to have more criminal trials, then what has to happen is judges have to say, I'm not going to accept this plea agreement for this particular crime. I'm not going to sentence according to the recommendation because I don't think it's severe enough. And so the defendant can either just plead open, which means without a plea agreement, or go to trial. Now, what that means for managing the court system is difficult because, it means a lot more work and a lot more trials. I'm running for a full-time job. I'll be there every day, whether the lights are off in the courtroom or not. So we can be in the courtroom trying cases, or I can be upstairs working on other people's work and motions. But that's how you get more trials.
Thank you. And next, our questions turn to our chancery judges. And Ms. Carroll, you kind of stole one of my questions. And that is that in chancery court, the resolution of divorce cases can be a tremendous burden and a responsibility. And it's often said it's easy to decide a case where both parents are not very good, or where one parent is very good and the other is not. The hardest decision is where both parents are really good people and the kids will not go to sleep that night with one of their parents in their home. So I'll start with you, Bo Agnew. Tell us why you should be the person in Rankin County who makes the difficult and emotional decisions of divorce, child custody, visitation, and support.
I believe that integrity and morality and who you are and what you believe and your faith is what you rely on when you make decisions for people that change their lives. There is no other substitution for it. Some may not like that, but that is the truth. You need to rely on those things that are of greater power than you when making those decisions. Of course, the law matters, and we have to follow the law. But what you have to recall is, like I've said before, Chancery Court is not just a court of law and equity, it's a court of life. It's about decisions that change generations and families. So how would I do that? I would do that by doing what I already do every day, whether I'm on the bench or whether I'm representing a person that's on the other side of the bench. I apply everything I know in my heart and my faith, and I try everything I can to leave people better than I found them. If that is the goal, then that is the best solution. Again, if you work towards trying to prevent collateral damage, always, then you're doing more good than you are if you go in and just take the first turn left or right. It's about discernment. It's about paying attention. Listen, it's about the whys, not the whats. The reason that we're there is because of the whys. So you got to get deep on these issues, and you got to look for the whys. Why are these things occurring? Why are these things happening? And how can I go and fix the problem so that we don't have a problem again? And that's the way I approach it today. That's how I will continue to approach it.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Wolf, tell us the same question. Tell us why you should be the person that makes these difficult and emotional decisions.
That's a lot of questions you have in there. But I avoided this sort of personal thing, but I think that at the heart of Chancery Court is loss. Loss of your property, loss of your business, loss of a loved one, loss of an adult in a conservatorship, loss of the family that everybody once knew. Loss is a big thing. But what is loss? It's that loss of that hope, the future that you anticipated, the future that you want, the future that you believed you're going to have. Man, it's a powerful thing to think about your future and then suddenly have it ripped from under you. I know loss. I do. In 2021, my wife Stacy passed away. Very sudden. Saw it in my children, saw it in myself. But I also discovered something else. With faith, with hope, that future that you thought you'd have could be something beautiful and something bright. I get it. I get it. When people come to me with loss, I get it. Guess what? There is something after that. There is a beautiful wife, Rebecca, the most amazing woman in the world now. God gave me her. You give yourself a God, and guess what's going to happen? There's a lot of hope in that loss. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carroll, same question. Tell us why you should be the person who makes these difficult and emotional decisions.
Well, I currently serve as Judge McLaurin's staff attorney. So I've been a litigator, I have been a judge in Chancery Court, and now I am a staff attorney. I'm the only candidate in my race who has prior judicial chancery experience. I'm the only candidate in my race who has worked for the Chancery Court. So I believe that I have professional experience that has prepared me to assume this role on day one. Place one already has cases set for January. This role needs to be filled by somebody who doesn't have to learn on the job, by somebody who's already done the job, and that's me. Place 1 in the month of January has a 5-day trial scheduled, followed by multiple 2-day back-to-back trials, followed by 4-day trials. Those people and those litigants don't need to have their matters continued while somebody figures out what they need to do. Those matters need resolution, those matters need careful attention, and I'm ready to fulfill that role.
Thank you. The next we'll turn to the circuit court candidates, and I'll start with Ms. Butler. There are some who question whether Mississippi's criminal justice system properly balances punishment, rehabilitation, and mercy. If you would, talk about how you would balance prison sentences versus house arrest versus intervention courts and the like.
When we're making decisions in our court, we look at the facts and the law.
Sorry about that. That'd be me. Start over.
Okay, no, you're fine. I'll hold you in contempt, Justice Griffith. Okay, remind me the question.
I apologize to you. That's why it's fun being the judge. When other people have that happen, you can find them, but you're not going to hold yourself in contempt. I just want let me make it a little bit different and stay Douglas, and I'll ask the other candidates too. When we talk about the criminal justice system, that is particularly an issue in circuit court. And so you can have the differences between sentencing a person to a long prison term. You can give them some type of people won't take the hint, will they? A long prison term, I promise it's not my wife. I'm sorry. But let's talk about the criminal justice system and how it properly balances punishment and rehabilitation versus mercy, and how you as a judge look at your role in the sentencing of those who've been convicted of a violent and crime.
Okay, when we're making decisions in our court, we look at the facts and the law, and it's as simple as that. So you evaluate each case individually, and sometimes they can be rehabilitated, and we have those opportunities in our court. We have a trustee program where they can work and they can start a bank account. We have a drug court program where they can get counseling, maintain a job, get that treatment that they need. We have those opportunities for people that are eligible for that. So if you just look at every case, that's the most simple way to put it.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert, how would you balance these prison sentences versus house arrest versus intervention court in your sentencing decisions?
Well, the first consideration in every sentence is this person going to harm somebody else in the community? Is this the case where I have to put this person in prison to protect the community? And if the answer to that is yes, then the decision is simple. You put that person in a place where they're not going to hurt another innocent person. Now, does that mean everybody needs to go to jail? Absolutely not. There's a broad spectrum of people that come through the court system. I sit here by the grace of God, and that's as far as I'll go with that. But I was a kid at one time. I wasn't born a lawyer. There are opportunities for some structured rehabilitation potential. The trustee program that Ms. Butler mentioned is one of them. That's an innovation of the DA's office and the sheriff's office and the court system in Rankin County. That works fairly well. I think you could ask any of these prosecutors sitting down here on the front what their thoughts are about whether someone gets any sort of meaningful rehabilitative help when they're in MDOC custody. And I think the answer would be not no, but hell no. And so the issue there is, what are we going to do with somebody? The court is not a social justice organization. Judges and the court system really aren't set up, especially in Mississippi, to change people in ways that are meaningful. What you can do first and foremost is protect the community, and then secondarily, where you have some opportunity with folks who haven't committed violent crimes and aren't a danger to the community, you have some opportunity to give them a chance to learn some responsibility, to become helpful and productive citizens. through some of these programs. But I'm sorry, the sad fact of the matter is they're very limited. We do very little in Mississippi to advance that goal.
All right, thank you. Mr. Smith, same question. What is your judicial philosophy in the sentencing of those who've been convicted?
Well, the first thing you have to do if you're going to sentence anybody is look at what the sentencing guidelines are under the code. So it all depends on that at first. It depends on what crime was committed, because there's going to be different guidelines for each particular crime. Some of them have mandatory jail time. Some of them don't have mandatory jail time. But I heard earlier when you were asking Sarah, I believe you mentioned violent crimes. Well, violent crimes don't offer alternative programs. Violent crimes don't allow people to go to the trustee program, etc. If you commit a violent crime, you're going to prison. And my whole philosophy in this campaign is, I'll treat your kids just like mine. I'm fair, but I'm firm with my kids. I think that's required for them to become good, law-abiding citizens. I think that's how you have to look at each case. Like, I don't give my kids the same amount of spankings for everything that they do. It's a case-by-case basis. Same here. There's going to be people with different circumstances that committed the same crime. I think you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. Some people are habitual offenders. You don't have much alternative there. There's guidelines that tell you what you can do and can't do. Some people are not habitual offenders that committed the same crime. It's a case-by-case basis. Fortunately, I do want to stop this, if it was possible, I would love to be able to stop the cycle of crime, because I have noticed from all of my criminal experience, which is almost 20 years, that there is a cycle that goes, like especially in the child molestation cases. If those kids, those victims, don't receive help, there's a high propensity that they might become a predator themselves. It also, not necessarily just be a predator, but it also leads to drug problems, which leads them down a bad road to other crimes. And yes, if there is a way to offer them some kind of help or rehabilitation, or people that are in that position, I want to be able to do that. But my first and foremost responsibility is to the community. I want to keep this place safe, and we'll look at each crime on a case-by-case basis to figure it out from there.
Thank you. In our last round of questions, before we get to our final statements, I want to go back to the Chancery judges. And I will start with you, Michael Wolf. What are the challenges you see with parties who declare they're sovereign citizens? And how do you plan to ensure fairness and the rule of law prevails in their cases?
Yeah, when somebody steps outside of the role of citizen of the United States and thinks that somehow they're not, the laws don't apply to them, you have to remind them that they do. And the best way to do that is to listen to their plea, and then remind them they're playing to a wall. Because guess what? That sovereign citizen thing is I guess you're getting close to telling you how you're going to rule on something, so I need to stay away from that. I'd probably just direct them to the law and be done with it. I think the bigger question, though, is, as a Chancery judge, I'm not sure you hear a lot of those sovereign citizen arguments, but I think it's the same thing. Are you going to be there to listen to every person that comes to you? Regardless of how their story may seem, or regardless how they may or may not be right on the law, are you going to give them a sense of grace and respect? Whether you rule for them or against them, are you going to treat them with the dignity that everyone, regardless of where they're coming from, what their opinions they have about the law, you're going to give them the dignity they deserve as a litigant? The answer is yes. That's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to treat folks with the respect they deserve coming before me. Now, I think my 33 years have taught me that day one, there's a suggestion that maybe those January cases are left for somebody else. But day one, I think any one of us on this dais here can handle that docket. And I think the key is to handle it with the respect, the law, the listening, the devotion that all of us are going to bring.
Thank you. Ms. Carroll, what are the challenges you see with self-representative pro se parties, and how do you plan to ensure fairness and the rule of law prevail?
Well, as staff attorney for the Chancery Court, one of my roles is to deal with pro se litigants. pro se litigants are litigants who are acting without attorneys. So I think that they are, just because they don't have an attorney doesn't mean they're any less important. It doesn't mean that their issues are any less important. They should be treated with dignity, with fairness, with due consideration for their issues presented to the court. As family master, a good bit of the litigants that appeared before me were pro se. I handled the DHS docket, and I would venture to say 90% of those litigants were pro se. I gave them an ample opportunity to tell the court their side of the story. I afforded them respect. I afforded them patience. I afforded them opportunities to say what they needed to say to ensure that they felt heard before the court. And at the end of the day, even if they didn't agree with my decision, I wanted them to know and feel that they had their day in court. So I've a history of doing that, and I would continue to do that if elected to fulfill this role as Chancery Court Judge for Place 1.
Thank you. Mr. Agnew, along those lines, what are the challenges you see with drug and alcohol addictions and mental commitments, and how do you plan to ensure they receive the full extent of treatment and rehabilitation options?
I'm glad you asked me that one. I have dealt with drug and alcohol addiction on a daily basis in the Chancery Court and in the Justice Court and in every municipality I've ever worked for. Addiction is a problem. Addiction is a destructive thing in our family system right now, and it goes from every direction, not just married couples, not just father, son, everyone. And addiction is a problem that starts every day at an earlier age. And what I have done, I'm very proud to say, I probably have I'd say 500 to 600 cases in the last several years where we have moved people into programs. I work with programs. I work in the Care Center Ministry out of Jackson, where we give people the opportunity to not adjudicate charges, to work towards getting healthy. And that is a huge goal of mine. And I would say about 95% of them are successful. I've actually had multiple young people send me letters telling me thank you for putting them in programs and helping them get assistance. So that is one of the biggest things that I want to do, is help lead people into that role. With the mental role side of it, it's the same thing. It's all about trying to help people be their best and help people resolve issues, whether they be addiction or mental or issues pertaining to those type of things. And there is and are programs that are available. I have lists of them. I use them all the time, and I work diligently towards that. That is one of my goals in my practice as both a judge and an attorney.
Thank you. And I'll turn to our circuit candidates, and I'll start with you, Mr. Gilbert. What do you believe or consider to be your greatest accomplishments in the practice of law?
Well, I think I've got two. The first is the first felony criminal jury trial I ever tried in Rankin County Circuit Court. As a third-year law student, extern at the district attorney's office when I was sworn into the limited practice of law and sent a violent and habitual offender to jail for the rest of his life. It was a phenomenal experience. I prepared the case, I picked the jury, I did the opening statement, I handled all but one of the witnesses, I did the closing argument, and I was there for the verdict. And Rankin County is a safer place for it. The second was the last case that I ever prosecuted as a federal prosecutor, where an 8-year-old girl had been brought here by her uncle from Memphis to meet another man from Georgia, and they videotaped the drugging and raping of that child. Those men scattered, and it took an incredibly intensive and complicated investigation to identify them and find out who they are. And they're both in prison today, and they'll stay there forever. Those are the two things that I think matter the most to me. The things that I've enjoyed the most were the things that in private practice I've not made a single penny on. The cases that I've been able to help people for free and do things for people that couldn't get it done on their own. People that deserved help and needed help. And that's what ultimately being a lawyer is about, is making your community a better place. And those are the things that I'm the most proud of.
Thank you. So, Mr. Smith, I'll ask you the same question. What do you consider to be the greatest accomplishments of your legal career?
I don't think it's any one single thing. It's like I said earlier, I've handled a lot of the child molestation cases, and those cases are usually the most rewarding. They're also the hardest too. If you lose one, it's very hard to deal with, but it's also rewarding in the sense like you feel like you've helped that victim, you've helped that child. You know, there's children that I have worked with that were victims that I still have contact with today that, you know, it was years ago that I handled their case. When you handle cases like that and walk them through the process, you're with that family for months, if not years sometimes, just depending on the court process and what district you're in. But those have got to be the most rewarding things that I've done is working with those kids. That's one of the reasons I want to run for this, or why I am running for this spot, is because I want to be able to help our community. That's just the person that I am. I like helping people. I like helping our community. But really, it's the kids is the most rewarding part. It's also the hardest part.
Thank you. Ms. Butler, I asked you that a moment ago, so I'll change the question a little bit and ask you to talk about your public service and community affairs and things you've done in the community.
Okay. I've been a public servant my entire career. So I've worked 13 years inside the court. I give back to our community every single day with the decisions that come from our court. We're working directly. Oh, how's my little boy back? It wasn't another little heartful boy. I'm giving back to my community every day with the work that we do in the court, with my civic work. I'm a Rotarian. I serve in the Junior League. I serve on the boards of both of my bar associations. I plan day-long CLEs. We just had a law camp for budding lawyers in high school. We do things to give back to our community every day, but like I said earlier, the mission is the same. We're trying to make our community just a little stronger, and we're improving people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And those are all the questions I have. And so one thing I promised Representative Newman is that we would be finished in 2 hours. And so what we'll move to right now is we'll give each of the candidates an opportunity to kind of say what they want to and how they want to close and how they want to ask for your vote. And so I'm going to ask that they limit their time to 3 minutes. And I'll try to I'll step to the podium when you've got 30 seconds left so everybody will know if that's okay. But before we get started on that, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming today. This is outstanding in the judicial world. And I'd like for you to thank our candidates, if you could, before we go this. And let's thank them for their efforts. And I know that they will be here afterwards. They'll be outside. They've got some materials outside. I believe you're welcome to take any of their signs. That's not theft. In fact, they want you to take those, and they want you to hand those out. And they'll be here to talk to you for much longer. I also want you to tell your friends what you've learned here tonight. And I want you to tell them how important it is. And I'll also say this, they can't ask you for money for their campaigns, and I'm not going to ask for money for their campaigns, but unfortunately it takes resources in order to run these campaigns. So those of you, if you're able, if you would consult with others and think about it, that would be a great thing. And the way we will handle the conclusion of the forum, I'll go in reverse order. So Mr. Wolf, you're going to be up first. The floor is yours, my friend.
Once again, thank you for everybody who put this on tonight. I think the notion of a judicial forum has got to be terribly exciting to all of you who came here tonight, right? You said, whoa, I'm going to be on the edge of my seat hearing what they have to say. Well, guess what? I am a complete dork. I absolutely love this stuff. I got into law. Neither of my parents graduated from college, but they saw to it that all of their kids did. I learned from them that hard work is the backbone of any successful life. Enthusiasm, curiosity, that's what you need to do well in a chosen career, to make it more than just a career, make it a profession, make it a passion. I'm here 33 years after I started with the same passion for the idea of the law. That is, it can do so much more to resolve issues than any other system of dispute resolution that has ever been put out there. Yeah. A wonderful system we have. I have the energy still of that young 24-year-old who's starting off and got that first case and the first jury trial and tried it to a jury. I've got that passion for it, and I've got that curiosity to say, what's the next case? I look back and I look at the cases I've done in the past, and I say, there were some wins, there were a couple losses. We learned from those losses, right, Ashley? I see in the back. And he taught me a lesson once. You learn from those things. More importantly, you learn that the next case is the most important one. You learn that the client in front of you is the most important one. That's the way I would treat being a judge. The case in front of me is the most important one. The litigants in front of me are the most important ones. I'm going to take those years of trial experience and apply effective legal decisions. I'm going to do some things in the courtroom too. We have an amazing courthouse over there in Rankin County. But you know what they're missing? They're missing some electronics, some technology. Now that's just a funding thing, I'm sure, but I'm going to seek private partnerships with folks to see if we can bring it into the 21st century. It's a shame to have this beautiful courthouse without the technology to match it. I see opportunities in law. I see future. I see hope. I see the real problems. I'm not naive. And guess what? With that attitude, I'd like to be your next judge. Michael Wolf, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. And next, I'll recognize Carrie Carroll.
In closing, I would just like to say that I'm fully committed to Rankin County. My husband and I have chosen to raise our children here. Each of our 4 children are educated in Rankin County and have always been educated in Rankin County. Throughout my private practice of over 21 years, I maintained a law office in Rankin County. We live in Rankin County. I vote, we vote in Rankin County. We attend church faithfully and always have in Rankin County. My children are the most important things to me. My family are my greatest blessings. And a fun fact, my husband and I own a baseball team. It is out of Rankin County. So I want you all to know that I'm fully committed to the future of this county. It will be my children's future. It will be your children, your grandchildren, and your family's futures as well. That's very important to me. I believe that my personal experience as a wife, a mom, and a stepmom, as well as my extensive professional experience as a litigator, a chancery judge as family master, and a staff attorney in Rankin Chancery Court, renders me the most suitable candidate to fill this position. So I ask for your prayers, your support, and ultimately your vote on November the 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. And next, I'll recognize Bo Agnew.
Well, first I want to do something I should have done earlier and thank my beautiful wife for being here. She has walked with me through this journey. This is not my first election, but it's my first countywide election. And it's a lot more than just one district, I can tell you that. I've been practicing law for 23 years. Family law is what I do. Family law is what I love. Family law is what I've always done. It is my wheelhouse. And I am very, very fortunate to be in the position I am to do it. I believe that I'm doing my work to help others and serve others, which is what I'm supposed to do. That being stated, I'm so proud of my work as a judge. I've been in the judiciary for about 10 years. I have served in multiple judgeships, and I love it, and I love the opportunity to help people. Being able to see things from both sides of the bench on a daily basis, I think, is a huge attribute. I have been able to walk with people on both sides, and I have been able to learn extensively how to read people and how to trust people and when not to trust people. All of those things are very important, but most of all, it's all for me really sums it up in one thing. It's about service. You want to know why I want to do this? Because I love service. I love serving other people, and I love serving our community. This is my community. This is my home. This is where my family was raised, my children are raised. I love Rankin County, but most of all, I love people. I just love people, and I want to make a difference for people. It sums up real simply what I said earlier. My grandfather told me when I was a young man, I asked him how to be a success at law. He said, you can be a success at anything you do if you follow two rules, and you already know what they are. Serve God and serve people. And that's what I want to do, and that's what I have been doing, and that's what I'll continue to do if you elect me as your next chancellor.
Thank you very much. And next for our circuit court candidates, I'll recognize Carter Smith.
So again, I'm Carter Smith for Circuit Court Judge. I'd ask you for your vote on November 3rd. And I would just ask you to consider, as I stated from the start, two things. Consider the person and the experience, because it really depends on both. You can't have one without the other to be a good fit for this position. I would also encourage you to do your research on us. Like I said, I gave you my Facebook page earlier. It's Carter Smith or Carter Smith for Circuit Court Judge of Rankin and Madison County. One thing I would tell you is I feel like I have a good perspective and can be a good, fair judge in this position. Like I said earlier, I have been on all sides of the aisle. I've been the defense attorney, I've been the prosecutor, I've been on the civil side as the defense attorney and as the plaintiff's attorney. I think that gives me a good, well-rounded perspective. I also feel like I can stay calm under pressure and keep a level head to make the appropriate decisions, and I think that's really important in this situation. Because as we stated earlier, these decisions that these circuit court judges are making are very important to you and to your lives. Again, I'd ask you for your vote November 3rd for Circuit Court Judge Carter Smith.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Next, I'd recognize Scott Gilbert.
I've been in public service for all of my adult life in some shape, form, or fashion right here in this community. Before I was a lawyer, I was a full-time firefighter in Rankin County. After that, I was a police officer in Brandon. As a prosecutor, I served our community, and then in private practice, I've continued to represent police officers who are involved in use of force incidents and officer-involved shootings. So I've stayed true to my roots. I told you I grew up in Pearl. My father was one of the first 12 firemen hired when Pearl became a city. We've been here in Rankin County our whole lives, and we've served the community for our entire lives. I agree that judges have to be able to keep a level head and work under pressure. That's why being experienced in working without that net, being in high-pressure situations, like you are when you're a fireman or a policeman or a trial lawyer, is key and critical to making you qualified for the job. I've tried cases in a number of different courts in a number of different states over the last 20 years. And what I can tell you is that trials are trials. They're not really any different between federal court and state court, circuit court, and anywhere else. They work the same way, and the purpose is the same. To find the truth and resolve people's disputes peacefully so that we can live the lives that we want to live and to the standard that we enjoy. My values are your values, and I know that because I'm one of you. I'm one of you, and I'm running for circuit judge for all of you. And I'll be on the ballot November 3rd, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, I'll recognize Sarah Butler.
Again, I'm Sarah Butler, and I've served in circuit court for the last 13 years. I work every day in this courthouse in Brandon or in Canton. This is the work that I do. I understand the role because I'm doing the work. I help our circuit judges make their decisions, but I'm digging in the record. I'm finding the issues. I'm making recommendations on final decisions. Trial experience is certainly valuable, but it's not the only path to the bench. We have a chancery judge right here in this district that took the very same path as I am. Started as a staff attorney and was elected as a chancery judge. This is not a novel idea. I'm doing the work of the court every single day. And it's important to me because this is my home. And I want it to continue to be somewhere that is safe and stable and where businesses are investing their money here. So I would love to have your vote. If you like the direction that Rankin and Madison County are going, then I'm asking for your vote in November. Thank you.
Well, I hope all of you have learned something about our candidates tonight. I hope you'll take the time to encourage them and thank them for putting their name on the ballot so that we have great choices in Rankin County. So let's, as Gene Newman comes back, let's thank our candidates again for what a great effort. And I'll just close by saying this. I want to tell you what an honor and a privilege it is for me to represent you. And it's more important to see that we have good people elected. And we've got some really good candidates. So thank you all for coming here tonight to support our candidates. Y'all, I want to say a special thanks to Kenny Griffiths. He took the time to come over here and do this. A lot of people said, why don't you just open it up to the audience for questions? You can't do that because there's so many questions they can't answer. And we want to keep it legitimate for them and make them look, all of them, each one of them look as best they could for this night. So I really appreciate them taking the time to come. I appreciate y'all taking the time to come. Please, if you have questions for them or want to meet to them personally and shake their hand, please take the time to do that. They're going to stick around here probably as long as you're willing to do that. So thank y'all for coming. Y'all have a blessed night. Y'all go home, be safe.